YouTube, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. My name is Cole Whip and I am back with another video. So a few days ago, I released this video here and a lot of you in the comments said, hey, your contract rewards were not buffed. So I did promise to go ahead and continue testing the contract rewards throughout the week and through this weekend. And I have the results for those and we're going to go over that. And a little birdie also told me that this gun is a really good gun to use, one of the best in the game. So we're going to try it out. We're already in the tier 3 zone. We're starting out with this escort contract. Let's get the sponsor obligations out of the way. This video is sponsored by Messy Modding. They're a Call of Duty service company to go in and unlock camos for you, including Interstellar and Borealis. They have pre-made accounts, nuke services, schematics, and more. If this is your thing, check them out. There is a link in the description down below. First off, I spawned into the match with all of this wonderful loot. I've been able to build some things up with some dark ether runs and whatnot. So we are coming into this game stacked. We're going to be using the SO14 in the gameplay that you're going to be seeing in the background here. It is an MW2 battle rifle. Somebody in the comment section had told me, hey, this gun is one of the best in the game. And I had gone back and I had reviewed this gun prior on a gun guide episode and I scored it at an 8, and that was with an epic ether tool. So we're going to try it out with the legendary tool and see how it's doing right now in season 3 reloaded. Now, I'm not going to be talking a whole lot about the gameplay that's going on in the background. If you want to see how well this gun is performing, just pay attention to the gameplay while we are talking about the tier 3 rewards after this season 3 reloaded update. Well, after the update, whenever they nerfed the triangles, which is when I had posted that video about the tier 3 rewards being buffed. Now, like I said, as I promised, I have been testing all week long, during the week, during the weekend, peak hours, non-peak hours, and we got a good amount of data to go over. And when we're discussing this, I am only going to be talking about 2 items. We're going to be focusing on legendary ether tools and on flawless crystals, because I really think that that's all really any of us care about. So that's really all the data that I collected. I didn't go through and collect all the perks and the PAP2 rewards. All that was just simply going to take way too much time. So I wanted to focus on what we are all really caring about, and that is just those legendary items with the legendary ether tool and the flawless crystal. First, we need to recap a little bit so we know exactly how we got to where we are and why we're talking about what we're talking about. So last week, I posted a video about the tier 3 contract rewards being buffed. Now, what prompted that was there was a patch that went live either on Wednesday or Thursday that had nerfed the triangles that in the tier 3 zone, that made it to where not everybody could go to all 3 triangles and get the legendary tool and the flawless crystal each and every match, that only the first team in which to accomplish each triangle was able to get that legendary tool and flawless crystal. When this happened, I started to notice in my personal reward rifts when I'm running around the tier 3 zone that I was getting a lot more legendary ether tools and flawless crystals than I typically would. So we started collecting the data on it, and we did 100 contracts over the tier 3 zone. And the way that data was collected was by taking the last 10 contracts from 10 separate matches. So we completed that over 10 games, 10 contracts each game, the last 10 contracts that we completed. And out of that, we got 16 legendary ether tools and 14 flawless crystals over last weekend. This led me, hey, these rewards have been majorly buffed inside of the tier 3 zone. Some of you were noticing, hey, yeah, I'm getting a lot more of these rewards, while others are like, hey, my rewards are still absolute dog shit. So I made the promise to all of you that I would continue testing throughout this week and this weekend and see if those numbers are lining up to my results last weekend, which this also gave me a theory. Honestly, that was the very first time I have played over a weekend in Modern Warfare Zombies since the launch of the game, because I don't play the game on the weekends. I typically play during the day, during the week, and I am on Eastern Standard Time. So that is when I play the game. That is when I am on. That is when I have free time, and that's when I play. I just happened to have free time last weekend, and I was able to get those games in, and then I wanted to keep testing for you all here on YouTube. So then my conspiracy hat, tinfoil, everything, whatever, it led me to believe, hey, maybe the loot is buffed during peak hours of gameplay when the most casual people are on, which would maybe kind of make sense because they are going to want to keep those casuals on the game longer. So this time, testing all week, I wanted to make sure I tested during peak hours, non-peak hours, and over the week, like during the weekdays, and on the weekends as well. So we are going to start with the data that I collected during the weekdays. So Monday through Thursday of this week, well, actually really Tuesday through Thursday, because some of the rewards from Monday were included on that video. So from Tuesday through Thursday, we were able to complete, now this is from around 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to about 3-4 o'clock during the day, which is when the time I was playing. So very much an off-peak hour for the game. We completed 137 contracts. Out of those 137 contracts inside of the tier 3 zone, we got 1 legendary ether tool and 1 flawless crystal. Now, obviously, this is a very drastic change to what we were experiencing previously, but we do have more numbers to go through here as well. Now, we did also play during the week, during peak hours, which is like 7 p.m. and onward during the weekdays. Now, during that time frame, we were able to complete an additional 98 contracts inside of the tier 3 zone. Of those 98 contracts, we got 4 legendary ether tools and 1 flawless crystal during the peak hours during the week. Now, of course, we still have the data for the weekend here yet to go over, but what this is telling us is at least during the week, during the weekday hours, whether it be peak time or non-peak time, there doesn't really appear to be a huge change in the amount of legendary tools and flawless crystals that we are seeing inside of the tier 3 zone. But nonetheless, it is still an increase, albeit a much smaller one than we experienced last weekend. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into the data for the weekend. Now, over the weekend, I was still able to do a whole lot of contracts inside of the tier 3 zone. I was able to complete 148 contracts over this weekend from Friday through Sunday. Out of those 148 contracts, we were able to obtain 2 legendary ether tools and 3 flawless crystals during those runs. So that leads to the obvious question: what led us to get so many legendary ether tools and so many flawless crystals over last weekend when we were playing? Well, frankly, I don't really have any answers on it. Either A, we were just the luckiest SOBs on the planet, or option B is there was a short period of time after they nerfed those triangles that perhaps they had made an unintentional change to the tier 3 rewards that they have since rolling back. Or maybe streamer loot is indeed a thing and Sledgehammer or Treyarch or whoever is running this game just said, hey, Cole Whip is up and coming in this space, let's throw him some rewards. Now, I don't believe that. I'm saying that as a joke, 100%. That was definitely not the case. It was either an unintended change that was made to the tier 3 contracts, or we just somehow got so incredibly lucky. Now, I do apologize because I did mistake that as a contract buff. I had known that there were some updates. I was getting these better rewards, and to me, yes, those contracts were buffed. Everything was buffed for me, and I noticed some of others in the comments were also saying that their rewards had been buffed, that they were getting more legendary ether tools and more flawless crystals. Now, for the most part, my rewards inside of the game are absolute dog shit most of the time with all of these contracts. It's just full of blue ether tools and perks and ammo mods and so on and so forth, and you know, 2-plate vests, all of those things. Most of the time they're absolutely crap, but I was not completely wrong. Now, perhaps we did get super skewed numbers there over the weekend, and I really took that as a major buff, but the numbers are still revealing that there is indeed a buff to the legendary tools and the flawless crystals. On prior episodes where we were doing tier 3 testing, it was very difficult to get any legendary ether tools and flawless crystals during any of those testing videos. So there has definitely been a change. It is very much a very welcome change, just maybe not quite as big of a change as we saw last weekend. Like I said, it was either a fluke or it was an unintended change that has since been rolled back. And if you would like to see what is the best way that you can compete as a solo player these days inside of MWZ, be sure to check out this video here. My name is Cole Whip, and I'm out.